Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. This week we have another exciting Maamer to learn with you guys. The Maamer that the Rebbe said on Shabbos Parshas Shelach, which is this week's Parsha. He said it on Sivan, Tafshin Lamed Vav, the 28th of Sivan, 1976. Sivan, it's the date, not 1976, but actually in the year, which year was this? 1941, sorry. In 1941, the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin, they came from Europe, from the war that was the Holocaust, World War II, is happening in Europe, and they came from there to America, and this happened on Kayach Sivan, and this started a big change, especially in not just in the Chabad world, but in all of Jewry, because the Rebbe coming to America signified a new change in Jewry, in the Jewish world, because from then the Rebbe, it took several years for when he took on the leadership, but then things started growing really big in Chabad and in the Jewish world. So this day is Kayach Sivan. It's a very important day. So the Rebbe said this Maamer on the the anniversary of this day. The Maamer is not so related to the day, but it's still good to mention. But anyways, this Maamer, it's comparing the spies that are sent by Moshe in this week's parsha to the spies that Yehoshua sent in the Haftarah of this week. So we'll go into the Maamer. The Maamer will bring out the ideas that we're comparing and what they mean to us. Okay. So for those also who want to follow along, I am sending a link with the text that you can follow, or you can find it in the Sefer, in the book of the Sefer Maamarim. Look at. So let's go. All right. So Vayishlach Yehoshua Gamer Shnayim Anashim Ragul Gamer. Yehoshua sent two spies. He sent two spies. Okay. Umavar belukatei Torah b'divrei maskil zeh achiluk bein hameraglim sheshlach Yeshua la'hameraglim sheshlach Moshe. So it's the Alter Rebbe in his Maamer in Lukatei Torah. He explains the difference between the spies that Yehoshua sends to the spies that Moshe sends. Okay. B'hameraglim sheshlach Moshe k'siv shlach l'cha l'daitcha ani eini mitzav l'cha. Regarding the spies that Moshe sent in this week's parsha, it says you should send for yourself, for your own ledatcha, meaning your own decision. I am not commanding you. This is what Hashem told Moshe. I'm not commanding you to send spies. If you want to send spies. Masha ein kain shiluach amaraglim de Yeshua haya lo medaita ella al pi tzivei Hashem. So this is unlike the spies that Yeshua sent, that he sent it not from his own opinion. It wasn't his decision to send spies. Rather, it was according to Hashem's commandment. Hashem actually specifically told Yeshua, I'm commanding you to send two spies. Okay. So v'oid chiluk, another difference. The hameraglim sheshlach Yeshua hayu rak l'yerichai mina'ula shel Eretz Yisrael al yedei zet teru es kol ha'aretz. So another thing to point out, that the spies that were sent by Yeshua were only to Jericho, which is considered the luck of the land. And through this, they scouted the whole land. I guess the position of Jericho in Israel is a very good position. I think it's up on a mountain maybe. And when you get there, it's kind of like you have, if you get Jericho, you have like the whole land. It's a very good position in Eretz Yisrael. So that's where the spies from Yeshua are sent. Masha Eiken Amaraglim Sheshlach Moshe Alchu B'chol Haaretz La'arachal Ularachva. Ularachva, yeah. Unlike the spies that were sent by Moshe, they went in the whole land to its length and breadth. All right. So those are the two main differences, I guess we can see. From the spies that Moshe sent and the spies Yeshua sent. Again, so the spies Moshe sent, it was his own decision. It wasn't something Hashem commanded him to do. As well, they were sent to all of Eretz Yisrael. Unlike the Yeshua, he was specifically commanded to send spies, and his spies were only sent to Jericho, one location. Okay? Now we're going to understand what that means. Okay? The detail in this explanation is Sha'ativu de kibush ha'aretz peruchnis hu kechol ha'tivuyim shebatera inyan nitzachim b'chol devader. The commandment to scout the land, to go examine the land, spiritually what it means is, like all commandments of the Torah, something that's eternal in every generation. We have 613 commandments in the Torah, and seemingly like the spies in the, being sent out, it's not explicitly it's not one of the 613 commandments, but it's still a commandment that's brought up in the Torah. And the Rebbe is pointing out that like every commandment, there is a spiritual aspect of it, and not just that, it's not that it just has a spiritual aspect to it, but even commandments that might have been a one-time thing, like sending spies, it still has an implication to this day in every generation on a spiritual level. Physically, we're not obligated to send spies to Jericho. It's not something like once a year on a certain day we have to go to Jericho and scout the land. No, that's not what it means. Where it's something that applies every generation. But on the spiritual level, whatever sending spies to Jericho represents, that's something that applies even to this day. Now let's see what that means. So that each and every Jew needs to scout, or needs to conquer, I guess maybe, all his powers and all the aspects of his body and his animal soul, which is, the animal soul is like Eretz Canaan. It's the land before it's Eretz Yisrael, and to make them vessels for godliness, meaning make them into Eretz Yisrael. We scouted. We went to Eretz Canaan. We conquered it and made it into Eretz Yisrael. So what the Rebbe is saying is, our nefesh bahametz, our animal soul, it needs to be transformed. We need to scout it. We need to send spies to make sure that its whole being is turned into a vessel for godliness. Eretz Canaan to Eretz Yisrael, okay, the land of Canaan to Israel. That's what it means to scout the land, or to conquer the land on a spiritual level. Now we're gonna understand there's a difference of the scouting of the land between Moshe's scouting and Yeshua's scouting. Okay, so v'achiluk ben Yericho leklalos haaretz benefshe adam hu Yericho hu gimel halavushim machshava diber umayse. So the difference between Jericho and the rest of the land in a person is, so like I'm saying, we know what scouting the land means. It means to make sure that everything that we're scouting is for godliness. Everything we're conquering is for godliness. But now what's the difference with Jericho and the rest of the land is Jericho represents the three garments. The three garments meaning the thoughts, speech, and actions. These are considered the garments of the soul. The thoughts, speech, and action. We'll explain what that means, why. But we're going to now say why Jericho specifically refers to that. In the brackets, Ki Yericha hu melashon reach. Jericho, the Hebrew word for Jericho, it comes from the word reach, which means scent. Okay, v'lavushim shayichem l'reich, and garments, they're related to scent. Why? Because look, remez lashon hazar. It's hinted in the Zohar. This idea that the scent and garments are related to, like connected to each other, is because it says in the Zohar, bericha de lavush shaychu, the sense of his garments. I don't know what the Zohar is. I don't know what the Zohar talks about when he brings it up, but because it's mentioned in the Zohar in that terminology, we have this connection there. So that's why that's kind of why Jericho, Yericho, is referring to the garments of our soul. And just again, what that is, it's the thoughts, speech, and action. Machshaver, dibur, and ma'aseh. Okay, so that's Jericho. But uklalos haaretz, the rest of the land, the Eretz Zayin Amamin, the land of the 7 nations. Before Eretz Yisrael became the land of the Jews, there were 7 inhabitants, 7 nations inhabiting the land. All right. So Haim Hamidas Sheba Adam, the whole land, all of Eretz Yisrael, or maybe before it's Eretz Yisrael, even Eretz Canaan, when it's a land of 7 nations, they are referring to the emotional attributes that's in a person. Just to get a little spiritual here, a bit Kabbalistic, it's known that there are 10 sefirot. There are 10 attributes, godly attributes. And this is not just related to God, not related to Hashem, but also related to us, to our soul. And there's 3 intellectual attributes and 7 emotional attributes. Just to run through them, the intellectual ones are Chachma, Bina, Dat, and the 7 emotional ones are Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus. So this Klolus Aretz, meaning the whole land of Eretz Yisrael, the land of the 7 nations, they are referring to the emotional attributes that's in a person, the 7 emotional attributes. Okay? So that's the difference. We have Jericho, which is the garments, which is the thought, speech, and action. And the rest of the land refers to the 7 emotional attributes that's in a person. Okay? Now, what does this mean? Why are we bringing this up? So this is why that Yeshua was commanded to send spies, that they should go only to Jericho. What does this mean? Why was he commanded just to send it to Jericho? That the thought, speech, and action, they are in, I guess it's in the possession, but meaning like in control they're in the control of a person. Every person is in control of their thoughts, speech, and action. So So therefore there's a commandment for every single person to scout and to examine his thoughts, speech, and action in order that they should be for Hashem. That they should be for they should only be for Hashem. Yes. Okay. So that's what it means to send spies to Jericho. Is that we go send our spies, meaning ourselves. We should be spies. They go scout and then they conquer. So we should go examine our thoughts, speech, and action and conquer them. That they should be godly. They should be for God, for Hashem, meaning good thoughts, good speech, good actions, nothing bad, nothing negative, only things in the realm of holiness. So this is unlike the midos, the attributes that's in the heart, which aren't in the control of every person. So this is what we're referring to now. The rest of the land. The rest of the land is the 7 emotional attributes, and the Rebbe is bringing here that the midas shebalev, the lev is where the emotions are, the heart. That these attributes that's in the heart, the emotional attributes, they're not in control. They're not like not every person is able to control all their emotions. The Rebbe says the tzaddikim dafka libam b'reshusam. He's saying that specifically the righteous men, the tzaddikim, their hearts are in their possession. They're in control. Tzaddikim are able to make sure all their emotions are for holiness, for kedusha. ולכן במרגלים ששלח מוישה לתור את כל הארץ, לבחון את המידות שיהיו כולם להוויה, כסיב שלח לך לדייך, אני איני מצווה לך. So this is why that the spies that Moshe was sent to scout the whole land, meaning to examine the emotional attributes and to make sure that they're all for Hashem. It's written, send for yourself, for your own decision, that I'm not commanding you. So why is it Hashem's not commanding Moshe? Ki avoided the kibush hamidos b'shleimus he davka al yidei gilib b'chines Moshe ve'ena shava l'kol nefesh. It's because that the service, the job of scouting the emotional attributes and to conquer the emotional attributes in completion at least is specifically revealed through the level of Moshe, meaning the level of a tzaddik. And it's not equal in every person. Not every person has the ability to, like I said before. Not every person has the ability to make sure their emotions are all for godly, all for Hashem, and that they're all for holiness. Not every person is able to do that. So therefore, it didn't come as a commandment. It was kind of as your own wish. As Moshe was doing it from his own self. Because if it came as a commandment, then seemingly would have all this pressure on us to achieve this level. But like we said, it's not in our possession. It's not in our control to do that. So it's a very difficult task for a regular person like myself, like most people. It's very difficult. So therefore, we're not commanded on that regard. We're only commanded on the regard to scout and to examine our thoughts, speech, and actions, because they are in our possessions. We're going to explain. We'll hold here for today, because this is just we came up with an question, an answer straight away. But obviously there's more to come, and it's going to get a lot more deeper. Not too deep. This Maamer is not so complex. It's B'ezrat Hashem we'll all be able to understand. And again, if you don't, please reach out to me. But the in short, what we brought up here is we have the two different spies, the ones that Moshe was sent, that was on his own behalf, on his own decision, not a commandment, and ones that Yehoshua sent, and it was a commandment. And Moshe sent it to all of Eretz Yisrael, and Yehoshua sent it to Jericho. And what the difference is that because Yeshua's spies were coming from a commandment, therefore it also applies to us. And the spies sending to Jericho is an analogy, on a spiritual level, that we should send spies. We should go examine our Jericho, and our Jericho is our garment of the soul, which is the thoughts, speech, and action. Unlike where the spies of Moshe sent to the whole land, which is going to examine and to conquer the emotional attributes, that they should all be for godliness. This is something difficult. This is not something we're all able to do. So therefore it doesn't come as a commandment. It's more of a suggestion. So that's the difference. Okay? Now, up until recently, I always thought, okay, maybe what it means to conquer the emotional attributes, it's a very difficult thing, because it might be difficult to always make it for good. That someone should always be loving and caring and God-fearing. These are seemingly it could be difficult. But I always thought to myself, it's a lot of people are at least on an external level, they're very good at being these characters. So I always wonder why is it difficult? But now I meditated on this idea and actually thought a person can be loving and caring and maybe not God-fearing is the example I want to bring here, because that will contradict what I'm about to say. But people could have good attributes. They could be good people. They could be friendly. And seemingly that's a good thing. And a lot of people are like that. But what is it? Why is that not? We're saying it's not in everyone's control. Because that's actually, to be loving and caring, that's all good, but that's not what it means, that it should be for godliness. It's because someone can be loving and caring, but for themselves, for their own benefit, seemingly. It makes them feel good that they're friendly to their neighbors and to their family. But what I think, at least, I'm not quoting anything, so if you're going to quote me on this, make sure you say that it's from me and not from the Rebbe, but I think that might be true, that what it means to make sure it's all for God, for Hashem, is that even the loving and caringness of a person, it needs to be for Hashem, the sake that they're being loving and caring and friendly and forgiving. It's for Hashem. It's purely because that's what Hashem wants. So I think that's why we're saying that it's difficult it's not in a person's control, because it's very difficult, because a lot of us we're in ourselves. We have this little bit of ego, that things should work in our favor, things should be for our benefit. So even when we're having these good attributes of being kind and gentle, it's often, maybe, at least I'm speaking for myself, it's for my benefit. It's because it makes me feel good. It gives me a boost in my ego, at least on a little level. But really what it means, I think, that it should be for Hashem, is that it should be completely for Hashem and not for your benefit. Even if you're acting the same, your intention is that this is what Hashem's commanded. Hashem commanded, you should love your fellow as yourself. Not because you want to, but Hashem commanded. So anyways, I'm going on a rant. But I just wanted to point out that I think this is why it means that it's not in our control it's not in our possession to be in control of our midos, of our emotional attributes, but it's for the tzaddikim. Because the tzaddikim, they're righteous. They do everything for God, for Hashem. Us little people, sometimes we have our own self-interest in the play. So, yeah. Again, we're gonna wrap it up. I'm not gonna go again because I'll just keep ranting. Wrap it up for today. We understand the two differences of sending spies to Jericho, which comes as a commandment for everyone, and sending spies to Eretz Yisrael is not so much as a commandment for everyone because not everyone's able to achieve that. It's more for the righteous people. So that's what we've covered now. Tomorrow we'll go more in depth. We're actually gonna see that maybe scouting and examining our emotional attributes is something that at least we have a little bit of access to. But I won't give too much away. We'll get into that tomorrow. So we'll leave it at that. Bracha v'atzlacha. Only good news, and Bezrat Hashem, we should be in the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi now. Bye.